Hello, this is Michael Hexter. Welcome to Politics 2100 here on YouTube. So this episode I'm calling The Moral Sadism at the Heart of Right-Wing Politics. So I think I've talked about this in different contexts as part of the cult of the deadly phallus or some other ideas, but I think this is a good summary of the motivational core of much of the right-wing political discourses, and this doesn't mean that behind that discourse or behind the actual politicians isn't the corruption that I talk about, and also, for instance, Young Turks talks about, or Majority Report, or other critics of U.S. politics, Represent Us, even so, which is a political action committee or political advocacy, really, committee for changing the electoral system to a more representative one. But anyway, and getting money out of politics. But the actual motivational, how the right wings inspires people to follow them, and how it argues its case in the public sphere, is largely about what I'm calling moral sadism. And so there are other ways that people have talked about this, and they talk about it in terms of a certain evolution in evangelical Christianity, but it's not only confined to Christianity or Christians or fundamentalist Christians, but sort of a gospel of pain and suffering and scapegoating other people, and a sense of entitlement to basically salvation in some Christian settings. But I am locating this more in a universalistic language of psychology, and that is about a drama where the right wing and right wing leaders in particular are declaring their fitness to lead and their entitlement to lead, and and drawing voters in by displaying themselves as being cruel, and also being particularly cruel to the idea of morality that you would ascribe, for instance, to the Sermon on the Mount in Christianity, or just in terms of general what anthropologists might call positive reciprocity, the idea that you give gifts to other people without expectation that you get something back from them, in the sense of a community exists, or particularly a family or a large family exists, if you have that sense of positive reciprocity. Anyway, so but this is conventional morality, and what the right wing is about, while claiming to be themselves the avatars of a traditional morality, are actually attempting to cruelly torture in the public sphere, and claim that they're the torturers of the moral, you could call them masochists, but anyway, the targets of moral sadists. I don't want to use the word masochist in this context, but anyway, that you are displaying your strength by crushing fine feelings for other people, tender-heartedness in other people, tender-hearted feelings. So feelings not necessarily of total rapturous love, but just empathy and vulnerability, and that you are, in the sense, this is why I made this portrait of the cult of the deadly phallus, this person who is armored, okay, and in any way, and so this person is about, or the people who, or this character that people are trying to inhabit, the politicians are trying to inhabit. For instance, example from today or from recently is Ron DeSantis' effort to ban certain math books because they essentially talk about sharing and equality, and they use positive, basically what we would call social rather than antisocial. Positive social, or pro-social maybe is a better word, pro-social messages rather than antisocial messages. And so or just calculating zero-sum messages, that in a way that these math books seem to have in them. His objection was based on these, what would be commonplace for young children, commonplace positive social messaging. And his attack on this, while it may be just theatrical and he may have really very little personal feeling one way or the other what these math books, how they might be used and so forth and so on, he is trying to display to his voters how cruel he is and how much he wants to stamp out this kind of wokeness, so to speak, or this and that literally he's saying, we don't want teachers preaching a gospel of sharing and caring and so forth and so on. We want them just to, he used the word, you just say right or wrong in terms of just math questions and so forth and so on. So this is, among other things, showing a cluelessness about how you interest very young children in an abstract subject like math, and all the innovations in pedagogy that have happened since the 1950s. But anyway, but he, and as someone who doesn't really obviously teach young children, but he is trying to show himself to be this tough man in it. And you can list any number of different instances where the right wing is showing itself to be these ultra sadists, and so and their object of their torture is exactly this morality. And so also the libs, so trolling the libs is about the libs are become the avatar for this kind of softness and this empathy, this tenderheartedness that they're trying to stamp out, and they're trying to, and so that is an effort to, and they use all kinds of. Meanwhile, they try to create wild fantasies about exactly that kind of thing. So if you venture into this world of tender-hearted empathy with other people, you really are going into the area of seduction and pedophilia and all these other accusations that are false, 99.9% false accusations that or 99.99% false accusations that the right wing is ginning up, sometimes projectively, because among their ranks are people who have had interest in underage sexual partners and are interested in themselves, for instance, grooming, young people by loosening marriage laws and so forth and so on in certain states. But anyway, that this and the history is on the side of showing that the right wing is much more involved in that kind of activity than liberal left people. But anyway, but it's not unknown, okay, in any part of the political spectrum. But the right wing is trying to create this narrative of it is so dangerous to have empathic or tender feelings that are the basis, that should be the basis, let's say, and I will talk about this in another video, should be the basis of a left-wing politics. And they are trying to target that and trying to stamp that out. And Now, I have unfortunate news in viewing, among other things, events of today, really, where we see that there are, and also just in general, the last 2 years in the pandemic, that is in a way, the pandemic has been a test of this kind of empathy with other people and tenderheartedness and so forth and so on, and on a very concrete level for many Americans. Okay, and the idea that you are trying to, through public health measures, trying to protect everybody, and or protect yourself and protect other people by following certain rules and so forth and so on, and that the rush to loosen those rules and throw them away, which the latest action by this Trump-appointed judge on public transit and in buses and also in airplanes, that one didn't need to mask anymore, and this sudden release that many people seem to find this so onerous, while cases are spiking. So literally, it's not as though the data is showing that we need to, the public health data, the epidemiological data is showing that we should be actually maintaining or increasing our levels of public health measures for at least a couple of weeks more. And again, it's almost always a couple of weeks more. In other words, not infinitely, but the relaxation happens at always at the wrong time. But anyway, you see in some of the reactions, the reason why I'm bringing this up is you see in some of the reactions of people, you know, when they're told in the middle of a flight that they can take their masks off, and you see people celebrating, in other words, passengers celebrating, that unfortunately there are many, many people who are just doing this because they have to, and not because they feel like a sense of ethical, a deontological sense of responsibility, a moral sense that they should be not only protecting other people, but protecting themselves. So it's not only protecting other people, it's also just a sense of common collective responsibility, not just this individual responsibility, but those things combined. But anyway, that it occurs to me that the right wing gives license to that. In other words, to be constantly attacking these libs, okay, who are supposedly these nags, who are or either nags or worse. So in other words, nags, obnoxious people who remind you of things that you don't want to think about. Or even worse, that they are not only that, but they are these monsters behind their morality. They're really just moral monsters and pedophiles. Okay, this is the word that's currently being used, and groomers. Okay, so that is all an effort to just totally dismiss the role of individual responsibility to other people and to a collectivity as a whole. And so I'm not saying, quote unquote, liberal is the liberals are good avatars of that either. And I'm not saying that they're the right, the correct side in the United States. In other words, that I am someone to the left. I think in general, people who are further to the left are more consistently pro-social in their attitudes and activities and so forth and so on. Not always, and not in every instance, and not in every dimension, but they tend to be that way. And so but no one is coming out very good, actually, and not even among all groups in our society. There is fragmentation in this resolve to collectively meet a challenge and then defeat it together. And so anyway, so I'm just pointing this out about COVID and about this mask the release of people feeling released from the mass mandate is that they are being helped. The right wing has an audience in some of those people in giving them permission to be as bad as they want to be, to give in to the, in German, the inner Schweinehund, the inner bastard, or whatever, inner asshole. Okay, and so everybody is wanting to be an asshole, and so they're just saying you can be an asshole, and they feel like, phew, I don't have to deal with that nagging conscience, that nagging sense of obligation to other people. So, and unfortunately that's very widespread, and so we have then an appeal there. And obviously also on the other side, those preaching responsibility and social responsibility and pro-sociality have not done the greatest job either in doing that. I mean, in representing it, and also in convincing people to do that, and our system is not set up well for that at all. So, but anyway, I just wanted to put this out there because I think it's becoming very, very acute, the moral sadism of the right wing, and it's just something that's very, very central to their politics, to their maybe even their private life, their own personalities, I don't know, but certainly politically, when they get together, when in the agglomeration of a political tendency, it's an atmosphere that encourages moral sadism. So anyway, so if you have any thoughts about this particular presentation, or any different perspectives on it, please share that in the comments. Please, if you think this is a reasonable presentation, please like the video. And also, if you are getting something out of Politics 2100, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.